Okay, so this is take 3 because for some reason my video on my normal machine isn't working, so I'm using my phone. I have to make this video today about East Palestine because I think right now as I speak, Joe Biden is there, or he will be there soon. He's flying there today. It's February 16th, 2023. He's finally visiting East Palestine after over a year of not going there. And I'm of course talking about the year ago being the disaster, the explosive toxic chemicals that were released by all of the cars that were derailed there. And I have to, because I spent so long watching East Palestine literally every single day and watching and hoping that Joe Biden would come and visit and address this, and watching the Railroad and Safety Act come out and die, and watching the promises and the assurity and all of the effort and money that Norfolk Southern poured into East Palestine in a way that I'll get to. I have to comment on today, specifically the situation is in East Palestine, and I want to look really close at it. Okay. I want to look really closely at the situation in East Palestine because it highlights exactly the problem that is happening everywhere across the board. So, what happened was a disaster. What we did about it was nothing. And the reason the disaster, to understand why the nothing happened after, you have to understand why the disaster happened in the first place, and why nothing's going to change unless we nationalize. And I'm going to get to that, but I want to lead you. Okay, sorry. This is I keep getting. I'm not used to doing this. I'm not used to doing videos at all, let alone being on my phone like this. But where was I? We have to look at the past. We have to look at what led up to this happening in East Palestine at all, because if we understand the very simple explanation and the very simple solution, it actually is a template for what we can do across the board to private industry and how we can take control back. And I want to get really specific. I don't want to throw, I keep using the word nationalization. I want to paint a picture of what nationalization is. And what it is at its core is really simple. You take something from private industry and you make it the property and the public ownership of the government. Suppose it should be represented by the people, but it's not necessarily. You can have a nationalization happen where the government is the fascist you can have, and it doesn't matter. All that nationalization means is that the government takes control of it. They make it their operation if they want to continue it, but they make it their property. Nationalization is not necessarily a good thing, obviously, because it happened in the Weimar Republic under Hitler, and that did not turn out well. Should the railroad industry, the private freight industry, the Norfolk Southern, should this industry, and Norfolk Southern especially, be nationalized in 2024? No, not yet. They should not be nationalized in 2024, exactly because that would put Norfolk Southern in the hands of the American government, and the American government is in a little bit of a flux in 2024. It appears that we are at kind of a curving peak of obvious corruption and corporate takeover in the United States. You could argue that it's been higher at other points, and by the way, when I mean corporate, actually, I should just say the owner class is really not even trying anymore. That's kind of what I'm saying. Yeah, think of this peak. What I'm saying is they're really not even trying to disguise their disregard of our communities anymore. When the United States was founded, yeah, it was owned by slave owners, or created by slave owners and slave holders, but look at the beautiful language that they wrote in the Declaration of Independence and our incredible Constitution. That language, freedom and liberty for all, these sentimental ideas that really look good and they sound good because they are good. The idea of liberty is a good thing. The idea of freedom is obviously a good thing. What freedom means and what it's been turned into is the worst, it's the polar opposite. You have the cause of freedom, and what they're really talking about is the right for any lunatic in our society to own a gun. That's about as far, the right, the way they frame it is insane. Doesn't matter. They're not even trying anymore. They don't care. The language doesn't even matter to them anymore. The veneer doesn't even matter. They're hitting that peak. The reason why, and again, we need to understand what led us to here, because that's how we put a stop to it. I'm going to make it really perfectly clear. The reason why is because all they're thinking about is quarterly profit. That's it. That's all they care about. But that's exactly where we have to look. The reason why this happened is exactly why we can beat them and how we can beat them. Here's what I'm talking about. We, the working class, have a different way of thinking, being normal beings that live in an actual world. We are not motivated purely by profit. We have lives to consider. We have children to consider. We think a little bit more long-term. We can use that long-term thinking, and in fact, we must use that long-term thinking to take control back from these corporations. And again, I want to get specific here. Here's what I would love to see come out of U.S. legislation that we ostensibly control. Here's what I want to see. As an example, again, let's stop picking on Norfolk Southern for a minute, and let's go back to just one of my favorite industries, airlines, who we all love. But they've needed bailouts repeatedly. And a bailout is when we basically buy the airline, except they don't actually give it to us. The United States people pay for and buy the airline, but then the United States people do not actually get the airline. It stays in the hands of the people that needed the bailout in the first place. That's a bailout. We could pass a simple piece of legislation that says, if you need a bailout, you belong to us. If we buy you, then we own you. Simple piece of legislation, really. What would happen as a result of that would be exactly what the law says. If an airline needs a bailout, then we take control. It's only fair, and it's not just fair. It's morally right. And I'm going to tell you why. Again, we need to use our non-quarterly profit-driven brains, and we need to use our actual human brains, these giant things we have up here, and think beyond 2 months from now. Let's do that for a minute. If we set these kind of legislative traps or bombs, not really bombs. In fact, let's avoid the word bomb. They're not. This is simply a rule that we know they're going to fall into because they can't resist. Norfolk Southern, pick your private, any one of the airlines, pick your private industry company, CEO. That's what they do. That's what we know they do. To think that Norfolk Southern, of their own accord, will care at all about East Palestine and its people beyond our memory of East Palestine and its people is foolish. They're waiting for us to forget so they can abandon the whole thing and turn around and do it again. The reason why it's hard for us to even remember East Palestine is only because we see the disastrous consequences of their thinking everywhere in the world right now. We see it. We're having wars. We're having a planet. These people, these leaders, these CEOs, in their quarterly profit mindset, went and picked a fight with nature. We've got that to deal with right now. We morally do not have any more time to deal with these people, with this thinking. The private industries have led us to calamity. And it's upon us. And we're done playing the games anymore. We're done indulging a few mentally ill hoarders who are so vacuous and dead inside that they rely on our subjugation and the domination of our entire states to satisfy their desires, to be apart from us. These are the people that live in the nice part of town. It's such a nice part of town, these people I'm talking about, it's so nice. They want to be so far from you. They're putting themselves on islands and they're putting bunkers. On those islands, there's no amount of distance between us and them that will satisfy them. They don't care about human beings. They don't care about anything except to be, it gives them pleasure, the subjugation. The difference between us and them gives them satisfaction, if you can call it that. But I don't want to psychoanalyze them too much. Let's return back to what we're talking about. Seeing this quarterly mindset, seeing this need for profit, seeing this, we know exactly what direction that Norfolk Southern is going to go. They're going to wait for us to forget. They're going to get worse. They're going to do it as soon as possible. They're going to get worse. It's already happening. Knowing that, we need to give them these traps that I'm describing, these legislative traps, into which they will become ours, and we can sort their ridiculous strategies. We can fix them. Norfolk Southern's 3-mile-long trains are insane. That's insane, and it needs to stop. Do you think they're going to stop it? No. We're the only ones who can stop it by taking them back when they make mistakes, by applying consequences like any parent would for any child. It's irresponsible of us not to give them those consequences. Who are the adults here? Because it's not them. It's not billionaires. They don't care. Nationalization should not happen in 2024. Why? Is because of the meaning of the word that I've just described. Taking power out of the hands of corporations and giving it to the government, who would have even more free reign to do make the changes and make the fixes that I've been describing to create a future that we actually want to live in with these services. I'm trying to resist going on too much of a rant because these are not just technologies and services, they're the connective tissue of our society. The freight trains. Stop looking at them as rails and look at them as blood vessels, delivering things that people need, like blood, almost. Literally, maybe, carrying blood. It connects us. It is essential to us. And it's not just freight. The reason I wanted to zoom in on Norfolk Southern is because once you see the problem, the solution becomes really clear. Once you see that reality, that, oh, this is actually a simple problem, you see a lot of solutions that could be made possible. I'm going to name a bunch of industries, and you, in your head, please, just try to think, what do these things have in common? What's the common thread between the railroad industry, the private railroad industry, these are all private, the railroad industry, the airline industry, energy, oil, energy, medicine, water. What do these things have in common? Social networks. What do these things, what am I describing here? Those aren't just a bunch of random, I didn't pick these out of a hat. There's something they all have in common, and the thing they have in common is we all use them, and we all rely on them to live. All of us rely on those things to live. They're essential. We are past the point where we can leave the essential industries in the hands of people who can only think 2 months into the future. These industries are not even, these are the workers who run these industries, who provide these services to us, want to work. The reason that these industries are so destructive and have become such a nightmare, a living nightmare, is entirely because of dollar bills. The people who run them that way do so to take more dollar bills into their possession because that's all they care about. I'm not proposing this because it's going to make anyone rich. In fact, it's going to do the opposite. It's going to stop making people rich if we nationalize. It's going to stop making billionaires. It's going to stop making these vast amounts of dollars. It's going to hurt the yacht industry. But we have to do it. This playtime is over. And the question of when to do it is actually not now. It is not in 2024. And I'll tell you why. Because, like I've just described, nationalization would put power into the hands of government instead of corporations. Now, governments should be run by people, obviously, but they're often not. The United States is in a bit of a mixed bag right now, and it remains to be seen where it's going to fall. The question is, are we a nation of moneymakers or human beings? Does the United States government nationally believe in human beings or something else? Does it actually follow what it says of a government of the people, by the people, for the people? Or is that just, can we just get rid of that? That's kind of the question that the United States is asking itself right now. And 2024 is yet another, this is an ongoing fight, and 2024 is going to be the site of another big battle. The fascist Donald Trump and we cannot entertain fascist the relationship between this country and its communities. When I say country, I'm talking about the United States government, the relationship between the United States government and its communities contained within the United States government, presided by, over the United States government, ostensibly represented in the United States government. This relationship has to change fundamentally. The flowery language of the original creators of this government, as much as the words liberty, that's an excellent word, it's poorly phrased. The Second Amendment has left us open to an insane possibility of it being interpreted as anyone gets a gun all the time. In 2024, me return to my advice for Joe Biden. And forgive me again, because this is take 3, so I don't remember if I've said everything. It's starting to get kind of muddy in my head. But this is my direction for Joe Biden, and I led right up to it. And that is that you have to beat Donald Trump in 2024. That's your job. And your job is also, at the same time as you're doing that, to prepare your heart and your mind for 2025. And this goes for all of us, because the role of Joe Biden in 2025 is going to be different from the President Joe Biden of this year. 2025 Joe Biden needs to be a president who takes back control, or at the very least sets firm boundaries with these private industries, the ones I just named. Every essential industry that the American people rely on to survive. Again, these are not, we can't make mistakes with these. Every single one of those industries that we can't mess around with must come under the purview of the United States in a way that is going to make Joe Biden very uncomfortable, and many other people who would rather keep control of their industries. They want these dollars to continue, and frankly, they don't see a reason why they should stop. The resistance to this idea is going to be loud, just as loud as it is ridiculous. No. If you didn't want your industry to be run by the public or someone else besides you, then you shouldn't have run your industry like a maniac. Because, again, those industries, we're talking health, oil, rail, Norfolk Southern. These industries don't deserve to be in private hands any longer. Private hands are untrustworthy. They're too good at making profit, you could say. Good job, guys. You did it. You reached the end of the capitalist. You did such a good job with your industry that you can't be trusted with it anymore. That's how good you are at making profit. Good work. Now get out now. Done. Get out. So, that's my advice for Joe Biden is win in 2024 and beat the fascists, and prepare for a new role in 2025, because we're done. And if you don't prepare for that new role, if you don't get ready to make the improvements that are necessary, then what you're going to get is an even worse, I know it's hard to imagine something worse than Donald Trump, but what you're going to do by failing to step into this new role is you're going to create and set the stage for something much worse than Donald Trump. Contemplate that. So that's my advice for us all, is to prepare for the responsibility of taking private industries, the services that we all need, away from the people who've taken us and led us to the people who have failed far beyond what anyone expected or should have allowed. Prepare. That's all. Thank you.